holding places, in fact, thousands of people until they collect enough to fill their ships. This is where they were kept, right here. And even at the time when they're ready to take them out, they take them this underground long that goes straight to an exit, where they can be waiting for them. And mind you, some of them will be for over a year. And most of the time, this took place at night. Yes, they were out of here at night. The Christ of the Sun is still remembered at the coastline. Watch your step. The Portuguese, you have the Swiss, the Dutch, and finally it is all over the
Now, y'all won't believe this, but just as I went live, the camera froze. Just as I went live, the camera froze. But we're going to continue this because you don't need to see my face to hear the information. And so what we're going to do is, as we do this, I'm going to also fix my camera, but we're going to continue on. All right, welcome to another evening, another opportunity for the African Speaks. And in the African Speaks, we're dealing with the issue of the fact that we have been in a process where we're dealing with the brutality of ignorance. The brutality of ignorance, the reason why the rise of the African is needed is because of the brutality of ignorance. And so the rise of the African is our social media pan-African movement where we are bringing Black people together. Now, in this journey, we have been dealing with what Matt, I'm getting it together, y'all. Dealing with the power of the divine self. We've been dealing with the power of the divine self, and the power of the divine self is a major focus in terms of getting you to understand who you are called and created to be. Who you are called and created to be. And you can't have the rise of the African dealing with you getting to your greatest and most profound self without dealing with the power of the divine self. And that is definitely and absolutely important. And so as we've been on this journey dealing with the brutality of ignorance, because this wouldn't even be a conversation if we were allowed to know at a particular time in history or remain knowledgeable of who we are in the Creator, of who we are in the Creator. So putting this together, I came across several different, when I did this and we did this, if it's the first time you're watching, this is definitely going on chapter 13, but we want to do a recap so that when we get to the fruit of what today's topic is, which you can see it below, the power of the divine self, the Sankofa journey. The Sankofa journey. And that clip that you saw was a clip of Sankofa. And I don't know if anybody's seen it in this generation. I've spoke to somebody or a friend and I was like, hey, did you see the Sankofa journey? Or Sankofa? And they remember the word. The word Sankofa is now like world renowned. You say Sankofa, you know exactly what we are talking about. Without a shadow of a doubt. People remember the movie. They know what the bird is. It's all of that. And so in that space and that place, when we're dealing with the Sankofa journey, we sat down and said, I said, and I'll say we, because it's not just me on my own. It's me interacting and talking with the ancestors because they're the ones who are providing me with the information. I'm being provided with the information. And so in that space where I'm being provided the information, what I do, I just listen. And I provide that information inside of what we're doing. They almost got the camera up. Inside what we're doing. Okay, I know where it's supposed to be. Excuse me, give me a hot second to get this. And so because I'm so comfortable now with technology, nothing surprises me. I'm not quite sure why this happened like this, but we're just going to roll with it. And so they give me a topic after topic after topic. So you name it, they give it to me. And so chapter 1 was understanding the source. Understanding the source. And when we're talking about understanding the source, you can't discuss the power of the divine self if you're not understanding that we are talking about the divine and how you describe the divine and how we've experienced the divine. And so you can't, again, getting to the power of divine self Chilla's echo. We are understanding the God within. So be able to focus on the God within us, we also have to always deal with, without a shadow of a doubt, the God outside us and how we look at source. And source could be God. Source could be the creator. The source could be the divine mother. Source could be Allah, Elohim, Jah, however you want to name it. People know about the source in many, many different ways. And so then you have part two, where part two dealt with the atomic particle. In the atomic particle, talked about how the creator created everything in it's like in perfect harmony and mathematical genius. The atomic particle, the atom, God's presence is in every little piece or product that you can think of, matter that you can come up with, every piece of link of energy, God is there. And that was the atomic particle. And so for that, get this right. And then we had in the experience of Ma'at. Now, with the experience of Ma'at, we talked with and dealt with the situation where if everything was created in mathematical genius, if the source manifested itself and created the universe in perfect mathematical genius, this is why it's a must to understand the importance of science and mathematics in our spiritual journey. You're like, what? Yeah, because if you don't understand how the creator made the world, you don't understand you and how you relate to it. And then the issue of the experience of Ma'at is looking at a community, an African community, an ancient African community that existed and created everything in terms of their spiritual and religious practices. We're going to use those things simultaneously, spiritual and religious practices that focused on balance, the balance of all things, the balance of man and his behavior with man, with nature, with their ancestors. Everything was in complete balance. And then we had chapter 4, which is the melanin, the gift of the gods. I make you in my own image. Well, scientifically, what does melanin do for the individual's ability to connect to the universe? What does melanin do for the individual's ability to connect to nature? What does melanin do with the ability for the individual, giving them the ability to connect with each other? This is deeply important. This is deeply necessary. This is deeply needed. The power of the divine self, the gift of the gods. Then we went on to the motherland connection. You're like, what? The motherland connection. The motherland connection talked about, okay, well, you create a people, but before he created a people, he created the land in which we were to come out of. How important is that, to create a land in which we are to come out of? And that land was also based out of harmony and balance. Harmony and balance, completely. Harmony and balance. There was never a need for food, clothes, or shelter. The motherland connection, what type of people comes from a land where everything is provided? God placed and started humanity in a place where everything is provided. Then you happen to have the migration of the different hues of man, because only one man can create multiple hues. You have an albino baby in Africa, and that baby has to grow up or have relations with another male or female, and they go look for cooler climate, because the heat without melanin, yeah, is not a happy place. That's how you can tell the first human beings on earth that were created, especially since science has proven that humanity started in Africa. You know, it was us because there was no sunscreen. No, God didn't sit down and create white folks and then create a sunscreen and said, hey, put this on while you sit in the sun all day and all. No, didn't happen. So that motherland connection. And then, of course, when I was writing the motherland connection, all we talk about is the land itself. And you talk about the vibrations of a people that come from that experience. What is a people that come from a land that has every resource they need to be a people? It's not an issue of fighting for survival. It's an issue of just learning how to develop who they are as a people of God, which is the beginning of all things. And then it was the secrets. Chapter 8. What was that? 4, 5, 6, chapter 7. I mixed that up, which is the vocal utility. The vocal utility in chapter 7 talk about the power of your voice, the power of your word. And we're going to come back, we're going to hear that again in this particular lesson, dealing with Sankofa, the journey of Sankofa, the power of the divine self, the journey of Sankofa. We're going to get to that. We're going to break it down. But I want to make sure you catch up. So the vocal utility said in the beginning, there was the word was with God, the word was God. And I sat down and said, let me take a look at the power of the vocal utility. That is the first attribute that we have that mimics the creator or the source. And then I said, well, let's take a look at the body, the secrets of the divine temple. And this talks about all the systems that the creator put together to manifest the universe. Then think about, well, let's take a look at the systems in which is in us and how we are set up exactly to mimic the processes of how the universe comes to existence. And the male and female, two different entities, energy entities that are set up to mimic different characteristics of the universe. This is why you can't sit down and mix up your pronouns. I say it, and I ain't scared to say it. You can't mix up your pronouns according to what the divine source has put together. They ain't got nothing to do with your sexual preference, but you can't mix up your pronouns. You're denying your identity in the universe and God. Of course, when, we're going to get to Eurocentric influences on the black mindset. Sankofa. Before we get to that point, though, we got to go and take a look at chapter 9. The river runs through it. And now we talked about the DNA. We talked about the blood within you and the data, the amount of information that sits in your being. The power of divine self, the river runs through you. Then chapter 10, we were made this way. Realizing that we didn't have to go through no changes, no nothing. You had a African man and an African woman. And we're going to use the word Africa because it's common, not because that's what they called it. They say that the word was Akibaland. Hence the world of Akibaland. That's what they called it. And so we were made this way. And so in that space where we understand how we were made, why would you not love what the Creator manifested you to be? This is how we were made by God. Everything divine from chapter 1 to chapter 10. This is how we were made by the Most High. When we're dealing with the issues of the secrets of the mystic temple, and the chakras. And then we talked about inside the river runs through it, the Shakashi records, the access to information that we have. We didn't have to figure out, even though we studied the world. We studied our relationship to the world. We were made this way. We built kingdoms based off of the knowledge and wisdom of God that was running through us. Very little blocks. We were clear of who we are, whose we are, and why we were here. To worship, give praise, thanks, and have experiences with each other that would help God know God. We are God, understanding God through God. What? I got that one from my day. It was one of the most beautiful ways that he planted it. And so we go to the hidden treasures. You like the hidden treasures? Yes. Because having a people that is so connected to the divine and we're able to create great communities, great empires. There was a history of our creations or our contribution to the world. And at that time, when you're dealing with the issue of hidden treasure, we can talk about stolen legacy. Because everything that the modern world uses today to function came out of African culture. And they don't want to necessarily tell you that. So your hidden treasures is hidden right before your very eyes. And we break down how Greeks and Rome stole African knowledge and claimed it as their own when they came in contact with who we were made as. They came in contact with the river that runs through us. They came in contact with the power of our vocal utility. They came in contact with the vibrations of a people. They said, can we learn what you learn? Because your wisdom is older than anything that we have put together. And in that one, hidden treasure, we show where the Greeks and the Romans documented that this is a wisdom that is so ancient, it makes ours look like nothing. And so they would send Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, all of the Greek philosophers to Africa to study. And then when they get back to Rome and Greece and try to teach their governments what Africans know, they look at them. Their lives didn't end up well because people didn't want to embrace a foreign doctrine. However, when life continued, they embraced them and saying, hey, well, since we're taking over the world and this was great information and it's actually accurate and we're killing off everybody else and we're working on the process of the brutality of ignorance, let's take the knowledge and claim it ours. And that's exactly what happened. And then in lesson 12, we talk about the 10 levels of consciousness. In that space where we are dealing with the African genotype, where it is completely open to the awareness of who and whose they are and why they're here. They understood that consciousness had levels to it. And so the lowest level of consciousness is the 10th level. We're going to say, level 1. We're going to go from 1 to 10, and 1 being the lowest. The lowest is when you have 100% of your wisdom is based off of your reality, the physical realm of what you can see. And you have people talking about their problems and their issues and, oh, this is happening to me and that is happening to me. Okay, well, are you your physical existence or are you your spiritual existence? And the higher you get into your consciousness, which is the highest level, is level 10, where you have 100% of your awareness is based off of your spiritual sense of self. Where you past 7, you're in the world and not of it. And a lot of conscious people, they have the knowledge of African history, but they're not displaying the attributes of the God consciousness. It's just that they know how to talk a game. But when you're in that state of God consciousness, you use it for the sake of development of humanity. And when your people are not functioning at their fullest extent, then the job of consciousness is to bring consciousness to those that you are called. Why? Because, and why is it got to be those that you're called? I had a deep conversation this weekend about this. It is because in the beginning, we were here to be a blessing to all the people of the earth. Now, how can we as a people be a blessing to all the people of the earth if we are not a blessing to each other first? Understand the brutality of ignorance. We have to get you out of your understanding of who you have been called to be by the source in order for us to be at the top of the consciousness chain and hierarchy of human beings. Because at one point, when you look at stolen treasure, Africa was the center of all wisdom. And we're going to get to that. I don't want to rush. And every nation in the world came and got its information from the continent and then would take it to wherever they was going. And so after the different layers of the 10 levels of consciousness, of course, we come up to, you see it, the journey of Sankofa. And so I started this, the opening, with the opening, one of the opening clips of the movie Sankofa. Sankofa has been, what, 30 plus years old? And I remember I was having problems with my son's mother, and I sent her the video. I'm like, sister, I need you to snap out of this European level of thinking, and let's get back to being who we're supposed to be for each other and to each other. She couldn't get it. She saw the movie and she said, if this is me, I accept who I am, and I'm not going to reclaim, and she was clear, any sense of self, because she wanted to consciously be evil. And I was like, dang, all right, there's nothing I can say about that. But in the video, at the beginning of the clip, and if anybody has not seen this movie, please go to you can see it at on Netflix. Netflix has Sankofa streaming. What? Yeah, they brought it back, which is a blessing and a good thing, because this is a must-see for everybody, especially if you're dealing with, and then it might be something that you watch on a regular basis. Why? Because you need to remember that you got to continue going back. And it's not that you go back to receive it. In this movie, the sister went back, and she only went back as far as slavery. But in that moment, they wanted her to connect her to her roots so that she could understand. And you heard her. I'm not an African. I'm American. She had no identity but the identity that she got from her oppressor. And in her behavior and her attitude, laughing and mocking her own culture, which was a sad situation. And in that space, as I watched it, I sat down and said, there are different levels to the Sankofa journey. There are different levels to this thing. Now, when we were dealing with the sake of womb consciousness and dealing with womb consciousness, it takes you back. It gives you a womb consciousness and womb healing. And we'll talk about that in maybe the next chapter. Yeah, the next chapter, where we separate the sexes. Because what a woman will go through in her Sankofa journey is not what a man is going to go through. There's some commonalities, but then there's certain things and that we have to clear up within ourselves to actually get to that point where we understand who and whose we are and why we're here. But in that, it stopped at the slavery era. But then I always say, even that womb conscious, we have to go deeper. Now, in here, we have to acknowledge and understand in our being. And I had a friend, I almost lost. I don't know if we friends anymore, because when you start talking about the healing of Black people, You got to first. If you're not dealing with the mark of slavery within you, then you're not dealing with any sense of spirituality on any level. There was a conditioning process to get us to run away from who we are, whose we are, and what we claim to do. It was a conditioning process. We're talking about the Sankofa journey that made us blind. And it is the brutality of ignorance, because they didn't come, they said, we don't want to destroy the body. It wasn't about physical slavery. It was about the mental and spiritual and emotional slavery that severed us from our higher sense of self. And so this process of the divine self, the power of it, has a Sankofa mechanism built into it. And so when we're looking at the Sankofa bird, it is what the Sankofa means, to return and get it. Go and fetch it. He's reaching back, grab the egg or a seed. Go take a look at your past so you know how to get to your future. Go take a look and learn from your history so you know how to get to your future. We must look back to the past to see that we may understand how we became what we are and move forward into a better future. So this Sankofa journey, now the movie did not necessarily hit on the complete aspect, but it was only one person who understood who she was, and that was the sister. Look at the movie. But it was an African sister who was telling the stories of their culture and how great the people of the tribe were. So the process of going back is a process, as well as, this is why the divine self, the power of the divine self, has a mechanism of the Sankofa journey in it, is because it's the process of self-mastery. Mastering who you are in terms of your creation. This Sankofa journey, you got to go back. So it's more than just, hey, I'm going to adopt African spirituality. I'm going to change my clothes, right? My conversation, the language of liberation. It's so much more. It is truly, completely understanding who you are, knowing thyself. And to know thyself, truly know thyself, there has to be a what we call a paradigm shift. You're like, huh? Yeah, there has to be a paradigm shift. And sometimes we believe that we're in this paradigm shift, but then we're really not. Just because you put on some kente cloth don't mean the paradigm shifted. Just because you say Ashe doesn't mean the paradigm shifted. And what do we mean by the paradigm shift? You have to make a decision on where does the leading understanding of consciousness comes from. Are you going to lean on and putting Africa as the center of all humanity, or are you going to continue to put Europe as the center of all humanity? Which lifestyle governs your perspective of thinking? Afrocentric or Afrocentricity is not what you wear. It's how you think. It's how you live. It is understanding that your people were the center of all wisdom. So in that space of switching paradigms, everything has to be anti-European wisdom. You have to begin to question everything and all things. We dealing with the power of the divine self, the Sankofa journey, going back to get what you was left behind, what was stripped from you, so that you would only see your Eurocentric perspective of life. And you would only have a knowledge of the current reality in which you live and not the spiritual realm in which we truly exist. one of the things that, and you can tell if you, and this, I'm gonna hit this point because I'm gonna mess with some people with this next one. Because some people believe that spirituality is greater than religion. What? Spirituality is greater than religion. That's Eurocentric. That is definitely Eurocentric because you have to understand what it does. Now, I would sit down and say, in that space where you're dealing with the divine self, you got to realize that we live in a religious universe. What? And if the religious universe is spiritual, everything is related. When you're dealing with the issue of the word or the European word of religion, it comes from the Latin word religare, which means to relate or re-relate. Because when you have a child, and we've discussed this before, yeah, this is we're gonna talk about the route of the woman in this journey next week, and then we're gonna talk the route of the brother. The brother has it hard. The brother has it hard because a woman has no choice but to be religious and spiritual. She has no choice. And I believe that this particular format is a diagram that does not give us truth to the power of the divine self. Because in this statement, it will say that spirituality is universal and you don't need to know your culture. You don't need to know your heritage. You don't need to know anything about your past, your traditions, the processes, your rituals. You just have to see how you as an individual fits in the grand scheme of things when that is not true. You have to see how you fit in your people fit in the grand scheme of things. And your people have a heritage. Your people have a culture. Your people have a way of life. That's is something that happens that relates you, reconnects you to your spiritual awareness. And so we have to embrace African wisdom. You cannot go down the line when you start looking, you go take a look at the movie, and everything about this sister, she was fighting, embracing her African self. Even when she went through a portal, a consciousness portal, where she walked back into the body of her ancestor who lived through slavery. She was, quote unquote, the house slave. You had the field slave. And she always tried to talk about she was supporting the concept of being a house slave. And asking the field slaves, why? Why do you want me to do this? Hey, just put this in his food and eat it. Don't eat it yourself. Kill them all. I am not going to kill anyone. No, they already killed you. You're dead. You're the walking dead. We are walking dead. Let's fight back and regain our humanity. Regain our humanity. The ignorance of the brutality of ignorance strips you from your human form. That's why it's important for you to look at chapter 12 when we talk about the levels of consciousness. The first two levels of consciousness, when people say, I'm a product of my environment, you're not human. You're not human until you begin to come in contact with your spiritual self. Ancient African wisdom, you have to embrace it. And you got to be careful of how you embrace it and you incorporate European concepts. We don't even know when we're doing it. We don't even know when we're doing it, which is a sad situation. One of the things that we do when we become Afrocentric, they realize that Black Americans are hungry for African wisdom. And so to get some healing from a Babalawo, man, they charge you a lot of money. I had a friend and had her ex-husband's in prison for life, and he was told by a Babalawo in prison, huh? said, if you give us $3,000, we can do a ritual that will help the parole board give him parole. His wife, who lives in, has a struggled existence. Let's say that. We'll be kind. 2 steps away from poverty, we all are. She has a struggled existence. Came up with the $3,000. Nothing happened. And so she goes back to them and she's talking to them, and they were like, you got to do the work. And I told her, I said, I'm sorry, I wish you would have called me earlier. Because they should have taught you about whatever work you needed to do. And so you can't embrace this thinking that it's just going to happen without any changes. However, we have to understand that this journey to the divine self, again, is an expression of ancient wisdom. The kingdom of heaven is within you, and whosoever shall know himself shall find it. This is Egyptian proverb, Egyptian philosophy, some of the oldest wisdom on the planet. Probably the only other older wisdom out there than Kemet is going to be Kush. And so embracing that, going back into that Sankofa experience, even in Christianity, you can't get to the power of God if you're not embracing African wisdom, because it's an African faith if done right. And so, I'm not religious, because you relate religion to Christianity. However, to come up with this concept as an Egyptian or Kemet proverb, there had to be a way of life that they embodied. Things that they did on a regular basis to either connect them or keep them connected to the divine self within and the source without. It is understanding the African spirituality and technologies. Yes, it's a technology. It is what we use to understand who we are. And real talk, every bit of technology is based off of the human body. Every piece of technology is based off the human body. And they look at how the human body worked to create new technology with what? The science and understanding of ancient, because all mathematics and science come from us. Everything comes from us. And if they created a new science or a deeper science, it happened because somebody took the time to understand the mathematics that came from African community. But then that mathematics was part of a spiritual technology. The science of connecting to the creator, spiritual technology. You have to get back to understanding what is yours by divine right. That's your Sankofa journey. That's your Sankofa journey. So when you look at the movie, go look at it. Netflix, Sankofa, it's on. I watched it last night. I'm gonna watch it again. Look at it. I'm gonna watch it a couple of times because it aids me and continues to tell me, brother, keep going deeper. Go as deep and go as far back as you can so that I could sit with the individuals who walked in pure reality of who they are, spiritual wisdom and understanding. Go past the early generations, clear up whatever demons you got. Go into the slavery, clear in. Dive into the water and maybe sit down at the bottom of the ocean and talk to some of those who said, I'd rather be dead physically than live in slavery. I'm out. Forget this. I'm too great of a spiritual being to have the brutality of ignorance forced into the temple in which I reside. Not happening. God will appreciate that I refuse this. And then we have individuals who said, we're going to fight this. But we can't do it without spiritual technology, the power of the divine self. Our journey into the divine self is unlike the Europeans, because the Europeans will sit down and claim these processes and say spirituality needs no culture. Spirituality needs no history. You have individuals, these non-Afrocentric African individuals making a lot of money, and I chose not to put the leaders up there. I was going to call them out, but there's no need because we don't need to give them no light. I'm trying to just give you the light. And they say you don't need to embrace anything. These are ancient techniques, ancient breathing techniques, so that when you breathe, your energy, your spinal and cerebral fluid as a breathing technique is recycled faster than the 24 hours that it takes for it to go down to your bottom chakras and bring the energy of your chi back up to your crown to activate your pineal gland. Y'all need to take a look at Secrets of the Mystic Temple. But they will tell you, those who are in now, that everything that they're doing, you don't need to embrace African spirituality. Then that means they're not really hitting anything. Tony Roman is not getting anything. Dr. Joe Dispencio, whatever his name is, he's not hitting on anything. If he's not going to be honest with the humanity and saying that we have gotten this information from ancient African wisdom, these are the realities of the societies that embraced who they were in the Creator. Let me show you how to use your mind. Who you think were they tapping into when they're talking about visualization, manifestation? That is not something, when you look at the history of Europeans, that is not something that was based off of the reality of who they were. It's an African. It's all African. So don't play with it. Dive in it. And so that way I can sit down and tell you, accessing and dealing in these African technologies. I am a technology of God. I tell the kids in our World of Akibla, our youth program, that you are God's science, you're God's technology, you're God's engineering, you're God's artwork, you're God's mathematics. You are the steam of the Creator. There is nothing imperfect about you. In your imperfection, you're still perfect. You get a child understanding that early, they walk in a particular way. And now in that state of understanding that these are spiritual technologies, now you can sit down and talk about, take a look at religion. What, brother? Yeah, now in this particular diagram, you see it's equal. Because spirituality, this is metaphysics, religion helps you understand it. If it's given to you in the right way, it helps you connect to the spiritual universe around you. A ritual is a process that goes over and over and over again. Traditions are something that over and over and over again. Religion is nothing but constant, doing something that is constant, that will connect you to the grand design, which is the Creator. There are levels to this consciousness thing, y'all. And religion are processes coming out of Africa. Because let me get this. Every culture in ancient Africa had its own lifestyle, its own traditions, its own way of life. You couldn't come out of put in the Kush and you sit down and it'd be the same life. Even nowadays, when you sit down and you can't be an Ashanti and having Ashanti spiritual practices, which is their religion, that keeps them and connect them to the grand design or to the source. You're not going to sit down and be like Ashanti and be like, well, I want to be Zulu today. No. It is a part of how that people in that culture connected to the grand design for the sake of that community. So religious is the practices, the rites, the rituals that one follows to access spirituality or the levels of spiritual consciousness when used correctly. Because even in Kemet, they said it's a spiritual concepts of Kemet. It's a religious thing too, which is using a Greek word. So don't denounce the meaning of the word or practices of individuals who say, hey, I'm spiritual. That means you have, okay, so what's the culture? And a lot of times when I'm talking to Afrocentric individuals and we're talking about indulging into African culture, and the technologies of African spirituality. I sit down and I ask them, okay, what is the culture or the spiritual system in which you follow? And I sit back, and then a lot of people, because some of them can tell you, and some of them just like, I'm just spiritual. Wait a minute. So then, which practices do you use to help decondition yourself from the brutality of ignorance? Because just because you pour libations to your ancestors don't mean you're being deconditioned. There are systems of deconditioning. The same way that it was a system of brutality, there has to be a system to receive higher sense of consciousness. So our culture is a part of that. And every culture on the continent had its own practices that no one knocked. Because who am I to tell you how to access the Creator as a people, not an individual? We were people. And a people who live in the bush where there's very low water doesn't have the same rituals as the people who live by the water. The people who live off of cattle and grazing don't live by the same things when you're dealing with fish. It's different rituals, different religion, different faith. Why? Because we need to get to God to feed and clothe and house our families. And that's why you have those deities. But then you have, again, culture. Sankofa, you got to go back and grab you some. Because this westernized state of mind, thinking, and being is not going to get you to experience the power of the divine self. It's not set for that. So in an African culture, you're looking at that belief. We believe that we are spiritual beings. We believe that the language we speak is sacred, speaking life. All of this is African, and you wouldn't know it if you didn't dive into African history. It is the vocal utility. Look it up. It is the first utility that we have that mimics God. That is not something that, and then when you hear it in the reality of your Eurocentric experience, realize that that's African. Then we have customs. And something simple, birthing customs. In certain African tribes, you have to take care of the placenta in a particular way for that child to always be connected to its ancestors and to the Creator. This is why in Eurocentric society, they don't let you do anything with the placenta. Why? Because they still want to keep you controlled. The umbilical cord is buried at a particular place under a tree, so that the child, when he sees that tree, as that tree grows, remembers where he's rooted in his community. Certain rituals. They say certain pregnant women are removed from the husband in the community and taken care of completely. Because in that process of ritual, the process of birth, which is a ritual within itself, the birth of life, she has become sacred ground. She's in a process of connecting and relating to the being within. We don't do that. They don't. You got to get maternity leave just before you go on leave, and then you can't stay home and take care of the baby. Why? It's Eurocentric. Our behaviors, how we treat each other. Then you have faith and religion. Again, when you're dealing with faith and religion, everything. If you have 4,200 different tribes in Africa, you have 4,200 different spiritual practices, aka religions. Don't knock the word. Knock the type of religion you choose to be a part of. Because we can choose any religious system on the planet that gets us to a higher spiritual sense of consciousness. We can take anything back to its original form to become who we are called to be. And then that will be the evolution of something different. Because in this day and age, it will not look the same. Wait, and we arguing about that in our community now. As we move forward and evolve in our understanding of spiritual sciences, it may not look the same. Meaning that You do have to have a Sankofa moment. You do have to go back to understand that everything about us connected us to the grand divine. Everything about who we are connected us to the grand divine. So do you want to go back into your history and get everything about your culture? Yes. This is why everybody now is going crazy about the bloodline. What tribe am I from? And then the minute you find who your tribe is, then you might sit down and be able to adapt what their spiritual practices are. Because then you can go back beyond slavery into the motherland before they conquered Africa and put this doctrinalization of the brutality of ignorance in us, and sit down and in your mind and the cosmic being of your thoughts, sit down with your people and talk about who did the creator call you and your tribe to be. When people go back and they see the older women see the other women coming and they start crying, hugging, my daughter has come home, because that woman is connected to her ancestors, the woman who watched the ship cross the ocean and never saw her children again, and they embrace you. When bloodline, I'm trying to tell you that ancestry, African ancestry, people are doing it in droves. But it may, again, when you go back to your Sankofa moment, it may, and you come into your present state, modern life, it may not look the same, but you still got to go and grab it. Because in today's day, it's going to look completely different. Completely different. How we go about it in the African diaspora, in this journey everywhere, it's going to look completely different. How do I know? Because when we started out before the invasion of the Eurocentric genotype in Africa, every country in the continent had a different process to reach the grand divine. So it's going to look different. So dive deep into your traditions, your heritage, your culture, manifesting your religious processes of accessing spiritual consciousness. It is something that goes hand in hand. And then maybe in this lifetime you can get back to that point where you were kings and queens. And we start using that verbal utility by calling each other kings and queens. Kings and queens. Hey, king. Hey, queen. One love. Peace. Grand rising. And I had a conversation, I made the statement, good morning. Why is it a good morning? Easy, because the part of me that was a slave yesterday is dead. And so it is a good morning. It is a good morning when I can see myself, the pieces of the Eurocentric self fall off. And bye. And I'm mourning that old me that's gone. Bye. I don't know how many times in this journey for me, my Sankofa, where I had to acknowledge to other individuals that person that I used to be is dead. It is a good morning. Now I'm at a place where, I'm walking, I'm understanding, hey, king, one love. But in that place, in that journey where we get there, there's another level of consciousness where we enter from that king and queen state and realize that we came in here as cosmic beings. That cosmic consciousness where we are fully endowed with self-awareness, the power of the divine self, the Sankofa journey, where you go deep within yourself to see yourself with no interference of Eurocentric life that keeps you from being who you are, where you're not dealing with social injustices, when you're not dealing with individual prejudices, you're not dealing with the declaration of inferiority or your acceptance of someone's declaration on you, the acceptance of Black inferiority, where you see yourself and you've gone through the practices or whatever religious rituals and rites and ceremonies that got you into your spiritual self, where you are pure cosmic energy. And every spiritual system, religious system, has a being that is cosmic energy and creative intelligence walking. And when a brother gets with a sister, a cosmic brother, cosmic energy gets with a sister who is clear and not functioning from the reality of what they're going through. When you're dealing with the issue of poverty, finance, that's an issue of reality. When people talk about poverty, finance, money, all that, that's a spiritual sickness because you can influence what is drawn to you by how you think. And how you think is how you live. Cosmic beings don't worry about money. Money comes. God gives them opportunities to increase themselves in this Eurocentric existence. Why? Because we are so Afrocentric in our approach to bringing different energy toward us. It's really nothing that you have to do. It's just everything first that you have to believe. And then the doors that where you have to go will happen. And I always say, be careful what you wish for, because when you don't know you're a cosmic being, you're speaking voice utility, your reality, and you will get what your heart desire is, and then you realize I didn't want it. But this is the space. This is when a cosmic being that is a black man meets a cosmic being that's a black woman, and they come together and experience source. This is the definition of black love. This is the power of Sankofa journey. When you go all the way back and you actually can have a conversation, and I met the cosmic being within. Woo! It's a journey to get there. To just meet it and see it, talk to it, and try to bring it back with you when you come out of that state, when you come out of that Sankofa journey, and know what you need to do. That's black love. When you have a co-partner that is doing it with you, that's black love. And because we live in our egos, a lot of couples don't embrace the fact that they're taking a journey to becoming cosmic beings. That's black love. And they allow the smallest things to hinder their connection. That's black love, though. We got to get past that to the point where we are fully surrendered to this journey. Going in, you meet your cosmic self, I meet my cosmic self, and then let them talk. Let them rap. Let them communicate. Let them see. Help us see who we are and send that information back. That's black love. This is what the Eurocentric world is scared of. The Sankofa journey within the journey to the power of the divine self. Have you ever imagined yourself as a cosmic being? Yep, I have. And I've seen it when I was a kid, and I've been fighting, and sometimes I fail. But I get up, dust myself off, and I go again. And sometimes you got to make hard decisions about the people who you got to be around. I don't cut people off. I just don't go around people. Now, if you call me, you call me, but I don't put myself in that situation where I go against the grain of my religion, which is seeking my cosmic self. And whatever that entails, I have processes. My community has its processes. And we're fighting now because we're like, okay, so why did we stop the processes? Well, the question is, why did you stop your own process? I always ask that. Because my processes haven't stopped. And neither should have yours. So that's religion. Sankofa journey, right there. Go back and get back where you deserve so that you can experience your divine self. And if you can do that, there is nothing that we can achieve when it comes to experiencing the rise of the African within. And so, wait, I messed up something. Let me get this here. I was trying to show y'all what we were doing with World We Keep Live, but it don't look like it's gonna work. I can't get the camera to work. So when we're dealing with the issue of the power of the divine self, and we are working toward the rise of the African within yourself. Understand that that Sankofa journey is needed. We want you to go embrace the power of you. If you can, and you can financially afford it, because some people who watch this may have some struggles. Go ahead and find out what people you're from and understand your culture. If not, just do some African history. And then whatever you're drawn to, study them, look at them, see who they are, what are some traditions and habits. See if you can find some of their spiritual practices, some rituals and rites. A black woman has the ability not to have to be um, ritualized in her connection to the universe. Black man has to. We have to have practices. We have to have rites of passages. Because there are certain things that we do that women do that men just don't. And we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about the commonalities first, or the techniques used in a common journey. And then how a black man goes to the right, to the woman goes to the left, and see what that is. Because everybody's Sankofa journey is a little bit different once you get your feet wet. What the sisters need to heal from and go through and get back to is different than what the brothers need to do. And so that those are the next maybe 2 or 3 chapters of the power of divine self. Again, as I begin to talk, they begin to give me information, and all I say is Ashe, and they let me produce it. And so with that being said, hopefully you've gotten something from this, and the rise of the African within inside yourself is increased that much more. Some of us take it for granted that we are conscious, but none of us has reached the highest level of consciousness just yet. I seek before I end to be a glimpse of my cosmic being, and I seek and hope the same for you. One love.